Verse of the day 12 in Isaiah chapter 60 verse 2. The prophet delivers a message of hope and restoration, contrasting the darkness of the world with the glory of God's presence. For behold, the darkness shall cover the earth, and deep darkness the people. But the Lord will arise over you, and his glory will be seen upon you. This verse highlights the transformative power of God's glory in the midst of human despair. Isaiah chapter 60 is part of the later chapters of Isaiah, often seen as messages of restoration and hope for Israel. The context reflects the return of Israel from exile, a period of spiritual renewal and anticipation of God's ultimate salvation. The imagery of darkness represents sin, despair, and the fallen state of the world, while God's arising symbolizes his intervention and the manifestation of his presence. This prophetic word also points to the coming of the Messiah and the establishment of his kingdom. Darkness shall cover the earth. This refers to the pervasive presence of sin, ignorance, and despair in the world. Deep darkness the people highlights the spiritual blindness and hopelessness of humanity without God. But the Lord will arise over you. God's intervention brings light, salvation, and his presence to his people. His glory will be seen upon you. The radiance of God's presence transforms his people, making them a beacon of hope and salvation for others. This verse reassures believers that, even in the darkest times, God's light will prevail and his glory will shine through them. Old Testament references. Exodus chapter 10 verse 22-23. During the plague of darkness in Egypt, the Israelites had light in their dwellings. This mirrors God's ability to bring his light to his people amid global darkness. Psalm chapter 27 verse 1. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? This emphasizes God as the source of light and hope for his people. Isaiah chapter 9 verse 2. The people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. This prophecy of the Messiah parallels the hope offered in Isaiah chapter 60 verse 2. New Testament references. John chapter 1 verse 5. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. Jesus, the light of the world, fulfills the promise of God's arising over his people. Matthew chapter 5 verse 14-16. Believers are called the light of the world, reflecting God's glory to others. Revelation chapter 21 verse 23. The city had no need of the sun or of the moon to shine in it, for the glory of God illuminated it. This ultimate fulfillment shows God's eternal glory shining over his redeemed people. Applications for today. Trust in God's light during dark times. When the world feels engulfed in despair, remember that God's light shines brightest in the darkness. Lean into his presence for hope and guidance. Reflect God's glory. As God's glory shines upon his people, believers are called to reflect his light to those around them. Be a source of hope, love, and truth in a dark world. Be a witness to the nations. The promise of God's glory is not just for personal blessing but to draw others to him. Share your faith and let God's work in your life be a testimony. Anticipate the fulfillment of God's kingdom. This verse points to the ultimate reign of Christ. Live with hope and expectation, knowing that God's glory will one day cover the earth. Stand firm against the darkness. Even when surrounded by spiritual or moral decay, trust that God's light overcomes all darkness. Relevance for the modern generation. In an age marked by uncertainty and moral confusion, this verse reassures believers of God's unchanging presence and power. It calls the modern generation to rise as lights in their communities, bringing hope and transformation through Christ. The promise of God's glory inspires believers to look beyond temporary challenges and focus on his eternal purposes. Final reflection. Isaiah chapter 60 verse 2 delivers a powerful promise. In a world filled with darkness, God's glory shines as a beacon of hope and salvation. As his people, we are called to trust his light, reflect his glory, and proclaim his goodness to a world in need. God bless you and give you grace after grace.